She deserves it more than you. Those 6 words hung in the air between us like smoke from a fire I didn't know was burning. I stared at my mother. Across her kitchen table, the same table where I'd eaten breakfast every morning for 18 years. The same table where she'd promised me at 16 years old that she was setting aside money for my future wedding. The same table where she now sat, calm as still water, telling me that money was gone given to my sister Megan. The sister who hadn't spoken to me in 2 years, the sister who'd made my life a quiet kind of hell since we were children. My hands were shaking. I could feel my engagement ring, the modest diamond Ryan had saved 8 months for, suddenly heavy on my finger. "Mom," I whispered, my voice cracking like old wood. "That was supposed to be for me. You promised." She didn't even blink. "Megan's getting married too. Lily and her fiancé's family has expectations, you understand." I didn't understand. I didn't understand anything anymore. "Let me tell you who I am. My name is Lily Chun. I'm 26 years old. And for most of my life, I've been the invisible daughter, not the troubled one, not the beautiful one, not the smart one or the talented one, just the other one, the one who showed up, did what she was supposed to, and never caused problems. Megan is 2 years older than me. She came out of the womb knowing how to command a room. She was the baby who smiled for every photograph, the toddler who performed for relatives, the teenager who got lead roles in school plays while I painted sets backstage. I'm not saying Megan was evil. That would be too simple. She was just the sun, and I was the moon, only visible when she wasn't around. And even then, just barely. Our father left when I was 7. I still remember the sound of his car pulling out of the driveway at 4 a.m., the headlights sweeping across my bedroom ceiling like searchlights. He moved to California, remarried, and started a new family. We got birthday cards until I was 12. Then nothing after that. It was just the 3 of us, Mom, Megan, and me. Mom worked double shifts as a nurse to keep us fed and clothed. I respected her for that. I still do, but somewhere along the way, I think she decided that Megan was her reward for all that sacrifice. And I was just the extra responsibility that came with the package. When Megan got a B+ on a test, Mom framed it. When I got straight A's, she asked why I wasn't doing more extracurriculars. When Megan cried about a boy, Mom held her for hours. When I cried about being bullied, she told me to toughen up. I learned early, don't need too much. Don't ask for too much. Be small, be easy. Be grateful for whatever scraps of attention fall your way, and I was grateful for a long time. I met Ryan. Ryan O'Brien came into my life like a warm wind through an open window. I was 23. Working as an administrative assistant at a physical therapy clinic, he walked in one Tuesday afternoon with a torn rotator cuff from a construction accident, and I remember thinking, this man looks like he could carry the world. He was tall, 6'2", with broad shoulders and these deep brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. But it wasn't his looks that got me. It was the way he treated everyone. He thanked the receptionist. He remembered my name. By the second visit, he brought donuts for the whole office on his 4th appointment. Just because everyone here seems like they could use a good morning, we started really talking about our families, our dreams, our fears. I told him things I'd never told anyone, about feeling invisible, about wondering if I was even worth loving, and he looked at me with those brown eyes and said, "Lily, you're the most visible person in any room I walk into." I cried right there in the break room. With a stale donut in my hand, I cried. We got engaged after 2 years of dating. Ryan proposed on a quiet beach at sunset, with a ring he'd saved 8 months for, and I said yes before he even finished asking. For the first time in my life, I felt chosen, not as an afterthought, not as a consolation prize. Chosen first. I thought my mother would be happy for me. I really did. The wedding fund had been a promise Mom made to both Megan and me when we were teenagers. $15,000 each, she'd said. I've been saving since your father left. When you girls find the right person, this will help you start your lives. I'd held on to that promise like a lighthouse in a storm, even when I felt unloved, even when I felt forgotten. I told myself, she's planning for my future. She must care. Megan had gotten engaged once before, at 22, to a guy named Derek who sold insurance and smelled like cheap cologne. That engagement fell apart after 6 months when he cheated on her with his ex. Megan was devastated, and Mom spent 2 weeks sleeping in her room. Comforting Harriet sent flowers. Megan never acknowledged them after that. Megan and I drifted apart. She'd always been competitive with me in a way I never understood. I was never a threat to her, but she seemed to take my mere existence as some kind of personal insult when I got promoted at work. She told Mom I was showing off when I bought my first car. She said I was trying to make her look bad when I started dating Ryan. She called him simple and beneath our family. As if we were royalty instead of two daughters of a single nurse who clipped coupons for groceries 2 years ago. Megan told me she wanted nothing to do with me, no explanation, no fight. She just stopped responding to my texts. Stopped coming to family dinners when I was invited. Stopped acknowledging my existence entirely. I asked Mom what happened. She said, "You must have done something to upset her. Just give her space." I gave her space. 2 years of space, and now the seed called Mom to discuss wedding plans. Ryan and I were thinking of a fall ceremony, small, intimate, maybe 50 people at a vineyard outside of town. I wanted to ask about the fund, about how to access it, about what vendors she recommended instead. I walked into a conversation that felt like stepping into a hole I didn't see. The money's not available. Lily, what do you mean not available? That's when she said it. The thing about Megan, about deserving. Mom, I pressed my palms flat against the table, trying to ground myself. You promised me that money, $15,000. You said it was mine. Things change, she said, in that infuriatingly calm voice. Megan's fiancé comes from a good family, old money. They're expecting a certain kind of wedding. She can't show up with some budget ceremony. And what about my ceremony? Mom sighed, actually sighed, like I was the one being unreasonable. Lily, you're marrying a construction worker. Your wedding doesn't need to be extravagant. Ryan won't care. He's not that kind of person. She said it like it was a compliment, like Ryan being humble and hardworking meant he deserved less. That money was promised to me. I said again, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. You set it aside for me, you said. I said things I shouldn't have. Mom folded her hands on the table. Megan needs this more. Her wedding is in 3 months. You just got engaged. You have time to save. Megan hasn't spoken to me in 2 years. That's between you girls. It's not between us. I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. She cut me off for no reason. And you're rewarding her for it? Mom's face hardened. That look. I knew that look. It meant the conversation was over, that I'd pushed too far, that anything I said from now on would be held against me forever. I'm your mother, she said quietly. I get to decide how to use my money if you can't accept that. Maybe you should take some time to think about your attitude, my attitude, 26 years of swallowing my needs, of making myself small, of being the easy daughter. As she was criticizing my attitude, I left without saying goodbye. I drove home with tears streaming down my face, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. When I walked into our apartment, Ryan was sitting on the couch, watching some documentary about deep-sea creatures. He took one look at my face and muted the TV. Baby, he said, standing up. What happened? I collapsed into his arms and told him everything. Ryan didn't yell, he didn't curse. He didn't even raise his voice, he just held me, rubbing slow circles on my back, and when I finished talking, he pulled back and looked into my eyes. That's not right, he said simply. That's just not right. I know. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, but what can I do? It's her money, she can do what she wants with it. Legally, maybe, Ryan's jaw tightened, but morally? She made you a promise, Lily, when you were a kid. She gave you her word. Her word doesn't mean anything. Apparently, Ryan was quiet for a long moment, then he said something that surprised me. I want to meet with her, just the two of us. I blinked. What? I want to talk to your mom face to face. I want her to explain this to me, man to well, man to Sandra. Ryan, she's not going to change her mind. Maybe not, he shrugged. But she's going to hear what I think about how she treats you. And she's going to look me in the eye when she defends it. 3 days later, Ryan called my mother and asked to meet for coffee. I wasn't there. He insisted on going alone. He said this was something he needed to do as my future husband, to understand who my family was, to set boundaries, to make clear that I wouldn't be mistreated anymore. I was terrified, and if I'm honest, a little hopeful. He came home 2 hours later. His face was stone. How'd it go? I asked, my voice small. Ryan sat down heavily on the couch. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he let out a breath that sounded like it came from somewhere deep in his chest. Your mother, he said slowly, is the most manipulative person I've ever met. What happened? She spent the first 20 minutes telling me how hard her life has been single mother. Absent father, working double shifts, all of it, and I sat there and I listened because I respect what she went through. And then she told me that Megan has always been fragile, that Megan needs more support, that you've always been the strong one, so you don't need as much from her. I felt my stomach drop. She said that. She said you've never really appreciated everything she's done for you, that you've always been independent to a fault, that giving you the wedding fund would just make you more distant. I couldn't speak. I literally could not form words, she also said. Ryan paused, and I saw something flash across his face, anger real. Deep anger. She said that if I really loved you, I would understand that family has to come first, and that Megan is her family, and I'm what? My voice came out as a whisper. I asked her that exact question. Ryan looked at me, and his eyes were wet. She said, Lily can take care of herself. She always has. I started crying. I didn't want to. I was so tired of crying, but I couldn't help it. 26 years of feeling like an afterthought. And there it was, confirmed from my own mother's mouth. Ryan pulled me close. I told her something before I left. What? I told her that being strong doesn't mean you don't deserve love. I told her that you take care of yourself because no one else ever did. And I told her that if she couldn't see what an incredible woman she raised, then she didn't deserve to be at our wedding. Ryan? And then I left. He kissed the top of my head. We'll figure out the wedding ourselves. Lily, we don't need her money. We don't need her. The next few weeks were a blur of emotion. I threw myself into wedding planning with a kind of manic energy. If we weren't getting the 15,000, we'd have to be creative. We'd have to be resourceful. Ryan picked up extra shifts. I started freelancing on the side, doing administrative work for small businesses in the evenings. We cut our budget to the bone. No vacation, no new clothes, no eating out. We found a small park that rented its gazebo for $300. A friend of a friend was a photographer who needed portfolio pieces. My coworker's daughter was in culinary school and offered to cater. For just the cost of ingredients, slowly, something beautiful started to take shape. A wedding that was ours, built by our own hands, funded by our own sacrifice. But the pain didn't go away. It just settled like sediment at the bottom of a river, always there, clouding the water whenever something stirred it up. I didn't hear from my mother for 6 weeks. Not a call, not a text, not even a message through a relative. Then, 3 weeks before my wedding, I got an invitation in the mail. Megan's wedding, a lavish affair at the Grand Willow Estate, a venue I knew cost at least $20,000 to rent, heavy cardstock, gold embossing, calligraphy I couldn't read. I wasn't just invited, I was invited. As a guest, not a bridesmaid, not family, just a name on a list. There was a handwritten note tucked inside. I hope you can put the past behind you and celebrate my happiness, Megan. I stared at that note for 10 minutes. Then I walked to the kitchen trash can and dropped the whole invitation inside. Megan's wedding was 2 weeks before mine. I didn't go. I didn't send a gift. I didn't acknowledge it at all, but I heard about it. Everyone heard about it, apparently. It was the event of the season. 200 guests, a 12-piece orchestra, a 5-tier cake flown in from some famous bakery in New York. Megan's dress cost $8,000. Her shoes cost $1,200. Mom gave a speech. I heard about that too, through a cousin who showed me the video, thinking she was doing me a favor in the speech. Mom talked about how proud she was of Megan, how Megan had overcome so much, how Megan deserved all the happiness in the world. She mentioned me once. One time, I wish both my daughters could be here tonight. But life doesn't always work out the way we hope. Life doesn't always work out as if my absence was some cosmic accident, as if she hadn't pushed me away with both hands, 1 week before my wedding. Ryan came home from work with a strange look on his face. "Lily," he said, setting down his tool bag, "I need to tell you something." My heart immediately started racing. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, He ran a hand through his hair. "I did something, and I don't know if you're going to be happy about it, Ryan." "You're scaring me." He took my hands in his. They were rough from work, calloused and warm. "I reached out to your dad." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You what?" "I found him through social media, through some detective work, through a lot of late nights when you thought I was watching TV. He squeezed my hands. "I told him about you, about us, about the wedding." I couldn't breathe. I genuinely could not breathe. "Why?" "I finally managed. He abandoned us. He hasn't been part of my life since." "Since your mother made sure of it." Ryan's voice was gentle but firm. "Lily, I talked to him for 2 hours. He didn't abandon you. He tried to reach out for years. Your mom blocked his calls, returned his letters, told him you girls didn't want to see him." "What?" "She told him you were better off without him, that you'd moved on, that seeing him would just confuse you." I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. "He kept every returned letter," Ryan continued, sitting beside me. "Every single one. He showed me pictures from your childhood that he printed off Facebook because that was the only way he could see you grow up. Oh my God, he wants to come to the wedding. Lily, he wants to walk you down the aisle. He's been waiting 15 years for a chance to be your father again, the morning of my wedding." I stood in a small room at the community center we'd rented, looking at myself in a borrowed mirror. My dress was from a consignment shop, ivory lace, vintage style, $92. My shoes were from Target. My hair was done by my best friend, who'd learned from YouTube tutorials, and I felt beautiful, more beautiful than I'd ever felt in my life, because none of it was about the money or the venue or the dress. It was about the people who showed up, the friends who helped set up chairs at 6 a.m., the co-workers who made centerpieces from mason jars and wildflowers, the photographer who was capturing everything with so much joy, and my father, Robert. June knocked on the door at 2 p.m. exactly when he said he would. I opened it and saw him for the first time in almost 20 years. He was older, grayer, but he had my eyes, or I had his deep brown, with a sadness that time hadn't erased. "Lily," he said, and his voice cracked on the second syllable. I didn't know what to say. I'd rehearsed 100 conversations in my head, but none of them seemed right anymore, so I just hugged him. He held me like I was made of glass, like I might break if he squeezed too hard, and then, slowly, he started crying. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. It wasn't your fault," I said. And I realized as I spoke that I believed it. We have time now, that's what matters. My mother showed up uninvited. I was standing in the back of the ceremony space, my arm looped through my father's, watching Ryan wait for me at the end of the aisle. When I heard the commotion, Sandra Chun walked in like she owned the place. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than my entire wedding, and her face was set in that expression I knew so well, the one that said she was right, and everyone else just needed to catch up. Megan was with her, freshly returned from her honeymoon, glowing with the smug satisfaction of a woman who'd gotten everything she wanted. "Lily," my mother called out, not even bothering to lower her voice, "we need to talk." The room went silent. 43 guests turned to look. Ryan started walking toward us, but I held up my hand. This was my moment, my wedding, my life. I stepped forward, my father still at my side. "Mom," I said, my voice steady, "what are you doing here?" "I came to support you," she said, but her eyes flickered to my father, and I saw the real reason. She'd heard he was here. She couldn't stand not being in control of the narrative. "You weren't invited." "I'm your mother. I don't need an invitation to my own daughter's wedding." "You're right," I said. "You're my mother, but you haven't acted like one in years, maybe ever." The room was so quiet I could hear the birds outside. "Lily, don't make a scene. Make a scene." I almost laughed. "Mom, you crashed my wedding. You gave my wedding fund to Megan without even telling me. You blocked my father from my life and let me think he didn't love me, and now you're telling me not to make a scene?" My mother's face went red. "Everything I did, I did for this family. No, I shook my head. Everything you did. You did for Megan and yourself? I was never part of your family, not really? That's when Ryan stepped in. He didn't yell, he didn't threaten. He just walked up beside me and put his hand on my back. Mrs. Chun. He said calmly, "This is our wedding day. Lily and I have built this day ourselves without your money. Without your support, without your approval, and we did it because we had to." My mother started to speak, but Ryan continued, "You raised an incredible woman despite everything you did to make her feel small. She became someone kind, someone strong, someone I'm proud to spend my life with, and I think, deep down, you know that I think that's why you're really here. You're not here to support her. You're here because you realized you're losing her and you're scared, but it's too late to pretend to be a good mother now. That ship sailed a long time ago." He turned to me, his brown eyes soft, ready to get married. I looked at my mother, at Megan, at the life I was leaving behind. Then I looked at Ryan, at my father, at the small, imperfect, beautiful life we were building together. "Yeah," I said, "I'm ready." We got married that afternoon. My father walked me down the aisle with tears in his eyes. Ryan waited for me with a smile that felt like coming home. Our friends cheered when we kissed, and someone's kid ran through the reception throwing flower petals. Everywhere. It was messy, it was small, it was absolutely perfect. My mother left during the ceremony. She didn't say goodbye. I heard later that she cried the whole way home, that she told relatives I'd humiliated her, that she couldn't believe I'd chosen my deadbeat father over Harry. Didn't respond, I didn't engage, I just moved on. Megan sent me a message a month later. Just 3 words. "You embarrassed us." I blocked her number. That was 2 years ago today. I'm sitting on the porch of the small house Ryan and I bought last spring, watching him teach our daughter how to catch fireflies in the backyard. She's 18 months old. With her father's brown eyes and my stubbornness, my father visits every other weekend. He's making up for lost time. He says every visit, he tells our daughter a story about the grandfather she almost never knew, and she listens, even though she's too young to understand. With those big brown eyes that remind me of him. My mother has reached out twice since the wedding, both times. She asked if we could put this behind us and be a family again, both times. I said no, not because I'm angry. The anger faded a long time ago, but because I finally understand something I wish I'd learned years ago. Some people only want you in their life when you're useful to them, when you're convenient, when you make them look good or feel good about themselves. Real family doesn't work that way. Real family shows up when things are hard. Real family respects your boundaries. Real family doesn't promise you something and then give it to someone else because she deserves it more. Ryan showed me what real family looks like. My father, imperfect as he is, showed me too, and now I'm building that legacy for my daughter. She will never have to wonder if she's loved. She will never have to earn her place in this family. She will never feel invisible because she is chosen first. Always. If you're watching this and you feel like you've never been enough for the people who should have loved you most, I want you to know something. It's not you. It was never you. Some parents aren't capable of loving the way they should. Some siblings are too wrapped up in their own needs to see yours. Some families are broken in ways that can't be fixed, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because they were never willing to meet you halfway. You are not responsible for earning love from people who won't give it freely. And here's the thing. I wish someone had told me at 16. At 22, at 25, you get to choose your family not by blood, but by bond, not by obligation, but by love. The people who stay when things get hard, who show up without being asked, who celebrate your wins and hold you through your losses, those are your people. Find them, keep them. Build a life with them, because a small wedding with real love will always be worth more than a lavish one built on obligation. A modest life with honest people will always outshine a privileged one surrounded by those who take, and a heart that knows its own worth can never truly be broken, not by promises unkept, not by money stolen, not even by a mother who couldn't see the treasure standing right in front of her. So if you're out there feeling invisible, feeling forgotten, feeling like you'll never be enough, please hear me. You are enough. You always have been, and someday someone is going to look at you and think, There you are. I've been waiting for you my whole life. When that day comes, hold on tight because that's where your real story begins. If my story touched you, please like and subscribe. I share real stories about love, betrayal, and the families we choose because sometimes the best way to heal is to know we're not alone